remember Tampa, the way she used to be, the places we would run to, the faces we would see. Yes, I remember Tampa, those precious memories, a city rising on the move, a simple yet progressive groove. I remember Tampa, and she remembers me. Yeah. She remembers me.
Welcome to the Tampa Natives Show. Stay tuned now for the fastest 60 minutes in cable broadcast history. Live from the studios at TBCN, the home of the Tampa Natives Show. Join your hosts, Mario Nunez, the 15-Minute Girl, and Steve Canella, as they celebrate growing up in Tampa. From Shock Armstrong to Shakey's Pizza, from Braddock Street to Buffalo Avenue. Get ready to call in and tell us your stories, because sharing your memories has never been this much fun. And now, Mario Nunez, the 15-Minute Girl, and Steve Canella.
She remembers me.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this, the Tampa Native Show. You know, if it's Thursday night and it's 7 o'clock, it's got to be the Tampa Native Show. My name is Mario Nunez, and as always, I'm seated alongside my broadcast partners. That's Tampa Steve Canella, and our very own 15-Minute Girl, Sally Nunez. We've got a special show for you tonight. For those of you that have been following us on Facebook and have already accepted the invitation to join us here tonight as a viewer, you know that Paul Guzzo is waiting in the wings. He's going to be joining us in just a couple of minutes to share some of his stories. For those of you that may not know, Paul is the featured staff writer at the Tampa Tribune that recently it showed on New Year's Day, the article that appeared on the Tampa Native Show, and record numbers of hits on our website as a result.
It was tremendous. It was amazing, really.
140 hits in one day, searches actually.
And we're still getting a lot of hits too.
And we still are, and we just learned, and Paul will tell us in just a couple of minutes also, that he received also sort of a record number of emails. You know, all positive, all good. So Tampa Native Show fans, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for engaging us, and thank you for sharing your thoughts on that article with Paul. I'm sure he'll have something to say about that in just a few minutes. How was your week, guys?
Good.
Great. It flew by like last year did.
It always does.
You know.
And here we are again, another Thursday.
We're on the same week.
Yeah, well, yeah. I know. It's silly for me to ask my own wife how her week was when I pretty much knew. That was directed at Steve. Okay. So, Steve, it flew by, did it?
It flew by.
Here it is.
It did, and we're here.
And
again.
last week's show was pretty good, was it not?
Oh, it was a blast.
Very good.
We had a great time.
And
they all are.
As it is, the fastest 60 minutes in cable broadcast history. So thank you for looking in on us tonight. Paul Guzzo will be joining us in just a couple of minutes. Just announcements up at the top of the show. Yesterday, we made a stop by Caracolillo Coffee. Caracolillo Coffee Mills, one of our sponsors, and we talked to Michael Faedo. Michael shared with us that his mom was a little bit under the weather. She had had some surgery, and we just want to say to Carmen Faedo, get well soon.
Yeah.
We are looking forward to maybe having you or perhaps Michael on the show.
One of the Faedos.
One of the Faedos has to come. This is the year. 2014 is the year that the Faedos come on and tell their story here on the Tampa Native Show.
That'll be a great show.
We're looking forward to that. Also, we should be hearing a little bit later on about an event that's taking place on Sunday. It's the Tampa Picture Show, see? Tampa Picture Show. What does that name, when you hear that, what does that mean to you?
Well, you know, I remember going there 30 years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You know, in fact,
I've
it's
been
been
there
there forever. You know, you can sit down, you can have dinner or lunch or food as you're watching the movie. And they play great movies, too.
Trend-setting in the sense that it was one of the first places,
back in the day,
one of the very first places in Tampa where you could go, and it was kind of, you know, you could have a beer.
Yes.
You could have a beer.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was like, okay.
And watch a movie.
So now we're mixing adult beverages with the cinema, which was kind of avant-garde back then.
And you know what? I need to go back. You know why? The last movie I saw there, believe it or not, was Romancing the Stone. Michael Douglas.
Wow.
That's going way back.
That's almost 30 years ago. That was the early 80s.
I saw Car Wash there.
I'm
talking about the car wash?
Talking about the car wash.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good stuff. That's 1976, right about there.
That's it, exactly.
Rolls Royce with that. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, and Paul will share some of his thoughts about that as well in just a little bit. Last night, Just last night, we had the occasion to get over there to Del Rio's Cafe,
We did.
right there in the heart of West Tampa. We saw Mr. George Tamargo, who is the chef in residence. Carmen and Phil Nunez were in attendance as well. We had their Wednesday special, which is shrimp and grits. Yum.
Very good.
And I have to say, I would be remiss if I didn't say,
remiss,
Steve,
yep.
and let me ring the bell right here. This little check that I'm holding in my hand, from Carmen and Phil Nunez, because you know what? They are my parents, and they
Yes,
do, and
they are.
and they do love the show.
Great
Mom said,
supporters.
"Here, look, I want to give you something for the show. It's been a while since I've made a
That's
contribution."
nice. That's real
and she
nice.
said, "But only under one condition: that you offer a challenge
Mm-hmm.
to all other viewers of the show, fans of the show, to meet or beat this pledge." Kind
Wow.
of like a telethon now, right?
Right.
Shalom.
Okay, here like a telethon. Meet or beat this pledge. It's a $100 check right here for the Tampa Natives Show from Phil and Carmen Nunez.
Wow, how nice.
So what we're going to do as the host of the show, meet or beat this pledge. We will bring the first 6 of you, and here you've got 2 already, so we've got 4 spots available. We'll bring the first 6 of you that meet or beat this pledge in 4 more to be part of a live studio audience here in the studio with us. So if you want to watch a live taping of the show, get out your checkbooks.
It's fun.
I can see Joe Abini now. Joe is reaching for the checkbook as he's watching the show.
Keith is already writing.
And write that check and let us know, because we'd love to bring you in, part of a live studio audience, because we're always evolving, always changing things here on the Tampa Native Show.
That's true.
And it makes it a lot of fun when we have
And
a live
thank you
studio
very
audience.
much, Carmen and
Yes,
Phil
that was
Nunez.
very, very
And thank
nice.
you, Mom and Dad, for your generosity as always. Here's another name that I want to drop on you guys. Perhaps some of you might be familiar with the name Ann Cook. Steve?
And Cook, I do.
Yeah.
Steve knows.
I know her.
Dory Raquelme knows. Dory is at home right now getting better. Dory, get better. You and Alan. I know Dory is usually here. She's our hello Dory answering the phones.
We miss you, Dory.
We missed you because tonight we're going to get a lot of phone calls when we go to our phones. And you know what? Becky Yata, you're going to
You're
be
not
jumping,
gonna be answering
jumping from one shoe to the next. But Ann Cook, I digress. Ann Cook, better known to those of us who grew up here in Tampa as the Gerber baby. She's looking in on us tonight. Miss Cook, we want to say hello and thank you for watching our show. And we look forward to having you on the show as well very soon to tell your story. And so that some of your students past can call in and share a fond remembrance and a
fun.
fond memory. That would be a wonderful,
She was
wonderful
my
show.
English teacher in 78.
Hillsborough High
High
School.
School. Exactly.
Hillsborough High
Yeah.
School, our very own Gerber baby here, Miss
amazing.
Ann Cook.
Nobody believes me when I say that.
I'm going to tease a show that's going to happen February 13th, okay? I know it's a little bit early, but it's going to be here before you know it. February
gonna be a
13th,
good
it's going to be our
one.
Valentine's show. It's going to be a great one. 90 minutes. We're going to expand the show to 90 minutes. Who's going to be with us, Stevie? You want me to tell you?
Yeah, who?
Because I know you don't know.
I don't know.
Because I just booked this guest
It's a
today.
surprise.
I
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
Does anybody out there remember the TV show back in the 1960s called High Time? Show of
Yes.
hands. High Time.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay. It was our very own American Bandstand, produced and filmed locally here in Tampa. And it was an opportunity for all those garage bands back in the 1960s to come together and perform live while the kids danced. Well, through an association with Robin Sibukow, who is also part of the Cuckoo Cuckoo Band, Rodney Justo, Roy Garcia and company, Robin has made it possible for Miss Jean Morris, who is 86 years young, to join us in studio. And that's going to be
Nice,
February
nice.
13th. She's going to make the trip down from Jacksonville to be with us. You're going to want to watch that
Wow.
show.
That's gonna be
Jean
fun.
Morris was co-host of that show, also the producer. And you know, back in a time when women didn't get the opportunity in the early 60s
Yeah.
to do that kind of stuff on television, she was really a pioneer and a trendsetter, and she's going to be on the show
was a
sharing
fun
her
show.
story.
exciting, exciting.
I mean, we had our very
Yeah.
own Hullabaloo right here in Tampa, right?
did.
And
Yeah.
Tampa was huge for the garage bands.
Oh, my goodness.
There's a lot of history
Yeah.
there.
A lot of
There's so
history
many.
there.
Yeah.
We talked about it
Yeah.
last week with caller Randy Alvarez. If you
Right.
remember,
I
Randy
sure
talked.
do.
We talked a little bit about auto racing
Right.
history, auto racing history, professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And
Baseball
music.
players.
Well, baseball is the given, but and music. People don't remember those other genres, those other.
Aspects of our history.
That's right, of
Right.
our very homegrown culture, and wonderfully talented people they all were. Okay, so get ready. Mark that on your calendar, February 13th. Stevie, I've got a note here that says photos call out.
Well,
You care to elaborate on that as we
absolutely.
get ready to go to Paul Guzzo?
Yeah, definitely. Well, mainly, and I did this last week too, in 2014, we want to make a big push for photos. We know that there's a lot of pictures out there in boxes and in your closets and your attics. We want to get those and capture as many as we can. In fact, we should maybe even do like a scavenger hunt or some kind of incentive or motivation for people to go digging through their boxes and find some really cool photos.
There should be some kind of little reward for them, maybe.
Well, you know what? Some people are already responding, though.
Really?
So, yeah, we have a couple examples. In fact, one of them is a video we're going to show shortly. It's only 59 seconds, and we have 2 photos from Vince Manendez. In fact, Becky, if you can, let's go ahead and bring up photo number Manendez number 1. I want to talk about that just for a second here. And this is a good example of someone going through their files, their boxes, and looking for photos and finding them. And if you do find any photos, let us know. Let me know. I'll even come get them and scan them for you. So, Becky, let's bring up Manendez number 1 photo, and we'll take a look at that.
Because right now we're looking at Mr. Nunez right now, but we'll get to the Manendez photos in just a second.
This is Nunez 1 photo right now.
Oh, there's Paul Guzzo. There's Paul Guzzo. Paul Guzzo made an appearance. The Manendez photo apparently is stuck in the TriCaster. Yeah. We'll get to that Manendez photo in just a second. Do you feel comfortable going to the video, Miss Becky? Shall we show the video?
We could do that first. Let's do that.
We're liable to call up an extraterrestrial on that TriCaster. We may want to wait a minute. There we go.
There we go.
There's
we got some sound to that? Yeah, there you go.
The places we would run to, the faces we would see. Yes, I remember Tampa, the sweet, soft memories. A city rising on the move, a simple yet progressive groove. Yes, I remember Tampa, she remembers me. Walking through the park at night, beneath the rustling trees. Children running, riding bike, footloose, fancy free. I remember Tampa, those sweet, sweet memories. The city that I call my home, the home from which I never roamed. So I remember Tampa, she remembers me.
Excellent, excellent. That video was given to us by
Joe Abini.
Thank you, Joe Abini, for that.
Thank you so much. 1942.
1942.
Can you believe it?
1942, very cool. Color, even cooler.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you noticed, but there was that little part with Webb City there.
Right.
And of course, everybody that grew up here knows that Webb City was on the other side of the bay. But how about some of those prices? How about the ladies wearing their hats? How about the men wearing their hats?
People
how about
just dressed up,
How about those
period.
cars? That was 1942. So these are the treasures. These are the gems
that we know are out there.
Yep. That we're going to ask you to be diligent. Right? Be vigilant. Get in there and start digging around. Get up in the attic now while it's cool, because in the summertime, nobody wants to get up in their attic in Florida. Get up there and look around and find those photos, and please let us know.
Go to your parents' house and dig through their stuff.
Yeah,
exactly.
Do it now before it's maybe too late, because some of those films and some of those pictures, if you're not careful, they deteriorate and the heat gets on them and the humidity gets on them. Becky, do you want to try to go back to the Manendez picture? Okay, let's pull that photograph up real quick, and Steve, you want to talk over this?
Yeah, definitely. This was submitted by Vincent Manendez. His father was Johnny Manendez. You can see Johnny Mandez's carburetor repairs. And look at the cars there. This is on the west side of 1214 Cass Street.
Oh, wow, Cass Street.
And he sent several, actually. He sent about 6 or 7 photos. I just picked out 2. In fact, if you want to show the other one real quick, Becky, let's do that. But these are the kind of treasures that are out there right now. There's a lot of Tampa treasures that are just, like I said, sitting in boxes in someone's closet, you know.
And we talked about it before. We'd like to maybe put together a coffee table book.
Exactly.
That's the proper phrasing. Coffee table book. Or even a calendar with some of these photographs.
A calendar
now
would be
we've
great.
seen the Burgert Brothers calendars, and they're classic. But there are,
I think it would be fun if we just had family photos.
That's what I'm thinking. Make it more personal.
Calendar.
Make it much more
from old
personal.
Tampa.
So if you've got those photos, please reach out to us. The email address, Stevie, quick.
It's goodtimes@tampanativeshow.com.
Goodtimes@tampanativeshow.com. Okay, we've eaten up about 15 minutes of the show. We probably went a little longer than we wanted to, but
we're gonna have some good times now.
let's go ahead and Becky, if you want to bring up the 4-shot, you got a sneak peek at him a little while ago.
You did.
Yeah, when we were switching those cameras around real quick, you got a good look at him. This is our dear friend, New Jersey native, but you know what? He got here just as soon as he could. This is Mr. Paul Guzzo, who has recently become a staff writer with the Tampa Tribune. Paul, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to our set, my brother. And let me just say right at the outset, amazing job on that article, New Year's Day.
Very nice.
we know because we've been knowing you for a little while now.
Nicely written.
The talent runs deep there, Paulie. And you were talking to us before the show, and he was talking about how, he has a little bit of a stoop, like a lot of writers will when they bad posture. When you sit in a chair and you spend all your day at the computer, sometimes you kind of slouch a little bit.
It happens.
So we had to have him sit up in his chair. When he did, he mentioned the fact that he was slouches, and then he did something like this. And I looked at him, I said, Paulie, you're an accomplished writer, man, a published author. Please tell me you use more than 2 fingers when you type. And he boasted and he said, you know what, I'm the fastest hunting pecker there is this side of the Mississippi, and I don't doubt it. Paul, welcome to our show, man.
I appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit about, because we want to get...
How did you decide on Tampa?
Well, we want to get the backstory. And I know you're coming from Jersey, man, and your brother Pete as well. Let's talk a little bit about your early years, man, when you were growing up in Jersey. Tell us about your family.
I grew up in the suburbs of Trenton, in a small town named Ewing. Just typical upbringing, Boy Scouts, soccer, baseball. But I guess what would going to affect my career. My father has a PhD in history. So growing up, when my father would want to get us out of the house and give my mom a break, he would take us on history tours. Take us to Trenton History Museum, take us across the Delaware Bridge to see the colonial homes in Pennsylvania, and without even realizing it, he was affecting my life for years to come.
That's where it all started.
It really was.
Interesting.
People that grow up here in Tampa, and we talk about it each and every week, because that's what we do, Paul. We take this time that we grew up here, it was very special. But we also know it had its limitations, and by that, let me just say this. In its limitations, I'll offer this to you. It was 8 hours by car before we got to the state lines. So it was a huge deal to get to Georgia, to be in another state. Where you grew up, brother, you could be in an hour and a half in 2 different states. You can be in Delaware, you can be in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania.
Where we lived, we were about a 20-minute drive from Philly and about a 45-minute drive to New York, or you could take the train in right to Madison Square Garden within about an hour. So yeah, we grew up.
There you go. There you go.
Philadelphia, New York, Baltimore, Washington, D.C.
And if you want to make a trip, you can go to Boston a little bit further.
Those 4 areas were always on the agenda when you got older and had a license for places to go. Then, of course, in New Jersey, we had Atlantic City, which
the Boardwalk and Atlantic City. Yeah. So, we should at least take that into account.
Right.
We think that our upbringing here was very special, but we also know what was going up in the Northeast, man, was also pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that's where you came from.
Pretty cold.
And we know about that, man. We know about the cold. So we know you're a little bit of a sports fan as well. You mentioned that, the normal upbringing with the Little League. And did you get up on skates ever at all, man? Did you do any of that hockey stuff?
Oh, no, not at all. Look, I hate the snow, which is why I ended up in Florida. Gotcha. I didn't ski, I didn't skate, I didn't snowboard. We took the kids out to the roller rink last week, and there were little kids going around there, and I said, well, I should stay off skates so I can help the kids and hold their hand. The truth is, even on roller skates, you put me on anything but feet, I'm falling over.
I got you. Okay, we just wanted to cover that because that's one of the natural things that you would do being, raised up north. It's a natural winter sport. I'm not a big winter sports fan either, although the Olympics are about to happen.
You remember, we're also the same state that couldn't sell out of Stanley Cup Finals, and the Devils were making it.
Here we go.
So we're not a big hockey state to begin with.
Here we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Point taken. So you upbringing, New Jersey, graduated high school in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Your core group of friends are still there?
Most of them, yeah.
Okay.
And some will move into New York or Philadelphia, but they're all still up north. Most of my good friends are still up north.
And when did you make the migration?
I came here in 99, August 8th, 1999 is when I moved out.
Wow, remembers the date exactly.
Yeah.
And you got here as a result of opportunity, or you just wanted to get away from the cold, or come on, talk to me.
I was 23 and women in bathing suits.
Appealing.
Of course.
Very appealing.
I moved down here with one of my friends with a 3-month lease. We paid in cash up front because we were both in our early 20s, didn't think we could pass a credit check.
Right.
So we said, here's money up front with cash. If in 3 months we don't like it, we'll go back home. About 2 weeks later, my brother came down here to visit, never went home, and almost 15 years later, we're still here.
Here you are. And you guys, go ahead, sorry.
Did you know about Tampa beforehand?
I knew nothing. I chose Tampa because when I was in college, my roommate's girlfriend was coming down to Florida to visit friends.
Oh, okay.
And at the last moment, her boyfriend, my roommate, got called into work. I said, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to drive down there. I said, well, I'll go. What the heck? I'll go to Florida. I got nothing else to do this weekend. So I came to Florida. Her friend lived in Bradenton.
Okay.
On one of the days, she said, let's go to Tampa. And she took us to Ybor City that night. We had fun, went out to all the bars, partied.
Sure, yeah.
And so when I would look after college, I said, I want to get the heck out of New Jersey.
Yeah.
And one of my friends said, me too. And I said, I had fun in this place called Ybor City one night.
Wow.
And so we moved down
that?
here off of that.
Wow.
Serendipitous.
That's great.
And because of your father's history tours, it kind of naturally guided you to the history here in Tampa too, right?
You know what? I didn't realize I loved history at the time.
No, you were 23, man.
Yeah.
You were looking for the
Look,
babes of the beach.
We moved down here, and we literally, like I said, we paid everything in cash. Me, my friend, and my brother, we were all living together. We pulled all of our money that we had left into a cigar box, put it underneath our coffee table, would live off that, and we would get telemarketing jobs, restaurant jobs for the first few months, just trying to get enough money to keep going.
survive.
And then one night at 3 a.m, my brother and I are playing Paperboy on Nintendo, and I said, God, I'm going to be up at 3 a.m. doing nothing. I might as well go get a paper and see if there's any jobs. And I found a job at La Gazzetta, which is, it's not really, when people call it a history newspaper, I think that's a misconception. It is history.
Yes.
You know, with being around now 92 years,
Yes.
you can't work there and not learn about Tampa's
Right.
history just from being there. So that's kind of how I got into history, and I loved it from there. So I'll give Patrick Manteiga from, like I said, as much credit for my love of Tampa history as I would my upbringing.
You just absorbed it like through osmosis.
Yes.
almost,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yep. And is this area not rich in history?
Oh yeah, I had no idea what I was getting into when I decided to start writing it about history. Every day I learned something new. I still don't know.
We touched
really
on
half
it
of
before we got on the air when, when Paul and the gang were talking, that we, our history, that's what we do here at the Tampa Natives Show. Not only do we find remembrances of a time past, but we also are trying to preserve those stories. Paul is in that battle with us. And unbeknownst to us, until just recently, we've realized Paul's now writing for the Tribune. And his job primarily is as a history writer. We lost the preeminent history writer here in Tampa for our Tampa Tribune staff writer, Leland Hawes, who every Sunday for years graced the back page of, I believe it was the Bay Life section with History and Heritage.
it was.
And it was amazing. And Leland, we just lost him. And one of those bucket list items, we weren't able to get him here on the show. But thank goodness we've got Paul Guzzo, who's going to be picking up that mantle. And he said himself, he said, hey man, don't put that on me. Those are some big shoes and I don't want to go there. But the truth of the matter is, Paul has a tremendous skill set because his father kind of put that love of history in his heart before he knew it. Now it's all starting to come full flower. He's a grown man with a family and young kids, two of whom are in the studio behaving wonderfully tonight. And it's just so nice to know that he's here. And as a young man himself, Paul, we have a lot of years to look forward to. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, wouldn't you say, Paul? It's like, every time you get a story exposed to you, 3 more stories.
Exactly right.
Yep. So we're going to go ahead and solicit for your phone calls here in just a minute. It's 813-977-6800. If you've got a question or a comment for Paul, or perhaps a story that you'd like to share with him, please give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. If you are a personal friend of Paul Guzzo's and you want to share a Paul Guzzo story, we love those too.
Sure, those are fun.
But let us know, because while you're sharing stories with story topics with Paul, guess who else is listening? Yeah, that would be the cast of the Tampa Natives Show. So we'd love to co-opt this a little bit, and perhaps we've got our shows lining up, but there's no shortage here in Tampa with our steep history. That's what we're finding out, Paul. It's it's when you tap the wellspring, and you start to things just start to bubble up to the surface. Before we knew it, we filled up a 12-week season, and we left 5 or 6 shows yet to go. We do 1 show a week, and those weeks come at us like a runaway freight.
Like real fast.
A perfect example would be, I have an article coming out this weekend on Victoriano Manteiga, the founder of La Gazzetta. And I worked for La Gazzetta for 10 years. I know the family, and people have always referred to Victoriano as he was founder of La Gazzetta. He was a lector. One of the things I love to do is when you find these historic figures, I like to ask for their FBI file, because everybody at the time in Ybor, these Cubans, because so often they'd be accused of being communists, even when they were not, they have FBI files. So I requested Victoriano's, and you find out from reading his file, to call him a lector or a publisher is that's just the tip of the iceberg. This is a man who had connections for over 30 years to every Latin American revolution going on. He was the go-to man in Tampa and possibly the United States if you wanted to fundraise for your revolution or political election in Latin America. He was a man so respected throughout Latin America that dignitaries used to travel to Tampa specifically to see him. And it's one of those things, again, for years, his name gets brought up. He's the famous lector. He was way
much more than that.
And that's going to be an article coming out this weekend. You should look for it. And,
yes. No.
That's my plug.
That's not a gratuitous plug. That's just something that is of tremendous interest, especially to those of us that are... Now, see,
I had no idea about the FBI.
There you go. And leave it to a cat from Jersey to request the FBI file, if you know what I'm saying. But see, the nice part about it is you get the other half of the story, or the other 2/3 of the story. When Patrick was on the show with us 2 seasons ago, Steve, about a season and a half ago, 3 months ago, he shared with us numerous photographs. One of the photographs was of a meeting back in the 1950s with his grandfather and Fidel Castro, who was here doing fundraising and before the revolution. And of course, Victoriano, like you say, was the go-to guy. Little did we know.
And so my article this week that will be coming out is exploring how we got to that point. The photo of Victoriano and Castro is not new. That's been around. But the question was, how did this man who ran a newspaper in the small community of Ybor City get the ear of every major Latin American revolutionary or liberal-thinking politician? I got to say liberal-thinking politician.
Sure.
How they were for over 30 years. And so there were moments that led to this, and that's what the article is about. And when it comes to the FBI files, I actually have a fascination with the Cuban Revolution and Tampa's role in it. So over the years, I've requested the FBI file of anybody who is connected to the Cuban Revolution from Tampa to help piece together the story of everything going on.
I'm getting a sense if Pete is out there listening, I'm getting a sense that there may be a screenplay here in the offing. I'm not sure why, but there's no shortage of interest in that period in our history and our connection to that. Paul, as I mentioned earlier, is a published author, and he brought with him tonight his most recent effort, which is The Dark Side of Sunshine. And I'm going to let him talk a little bit about this, but listen, if you want to win this tonight in the Bolita drawing, I want to see some phone calls light up because we're about halfway through. And I know you guys like to cheat a little bit and send in your emails with your number, and that's okay in most cases. But tonight, especially because we have a guest in studio, go ahead and give us a call and then give us your number if you'd like to win this book. Now, Paul, what was your inspiration for this book? And tell us a little bit about that.
When did I put this out? 2 years ago? So
I remember.
I had a collection of stories I'd written for various publications over the years. And once they run, they kind of sit there and they die. And it was a group of articles I was especially proud of where I believe I was able to be the first one to report on certain history or be the first one to report on a certain aspect of known history. So I took 12 of those stories and put them together in a book. So this is a collection of articles I wrote over the years prior to joining the Tribune. For La Gaceta and Cigar City magazine. And I put them together in a book, and it kind of detailed the history of Tampa's underworld from the early days of its founding up until modern times of when we became the strip club capital of the world. And I believe the 12 stories that bring you on that journey of over 100 years.
Paul has graciously donated 2 books to the host here, the Tampa Natives Show, one of which he's going to autograph, and we're going to give it away tonight's Bolita drawing. The other one we're going to read because there's no shortage of interest from the panel here as well. So, and if you've read Paul's stuff before, you know he's a very accomplished writer, very good writer, very interesting writer.
And Paul, there's our history's so unique, and there's so many untold stories. And I guess do you physically research or maybe investigate maybe some of these stories, or like the stories you may have in the book as well?
I am a research nerd.
Okay.
I will sit in a library for 3 days looking for one article, needle in the haystack type thing. And while you're looking for one article, you will stumble upon 12 more stories accidentally. And a perfect example would be, I have a story on here with technically an unsolved murder. A gentleman was gunned down in front of a casino in Ybor City. Dozens of witnesses around. When the police showed up, nobody ever saw a thing. Everybody knew it was Roy Velasco, and he got acquitted in court because not a single person remembered seeing a thing. So I wrote about that, kind of giving the example of how even the people who were not gangsters were always innocently involved in letting these crimes go on. So while researching that, the gentleman who was murdered said in there, in his obit, that he was best known for surviving a gunshot at the hands of the Ybor City killer. I thought, who the heck is this? So I started looking back. Turns out Ybor City was home to the first African-American serial killer in the history of the United States.
Oh, wow.
In 1912, he killed, I think, about a dozen people, wounded handfuls more, burned over 150 homes throughout Ybor.
Wow.
He's the gentleman who's responsible for burning down the original Centro Historiano. You know, the one that we have now is the second. The original was burned down by the serial killer / Firebird, who was he was the first African-American serial killer in the history of the United States, and probably one of the first documented serial killers. I think the first one was in the 1890s at some point. So considering this was just a little over 20 years later, how many more could have been in between?
Right.
So he was one of the first right here in Tampa and in Ybor City.
Wow.
Amazing.
You question how sexy was the history, Tampa's history in those early days.
Oh, it's crazy.
And when Joe Howden was on here and he talks to us about Ybor City history, you know that there was it was frontier days.
Yes.
It was the Wild West. There was a lot of stuff that was going on that was out of bounds, but as you say, people turned a blind eye because people were just trying to make a living, carve out, fashion some kind of a life here in the early days of Ybor City. But it was just sexy enough to catch the writer's eyes from Boardwalk Empire, because actually we were in about 6 or 7 episodes when the fellows from New Jersey came down here, and it was kind of interesting. I mean, it's a
little different.
It was different.
Yeah.
It, part of the notorious past, Tampa's history, but at the same time, we made the big time.
You got Live by Night that's going to be getting made soon. The Ben Affleck movie based on the book Live by Night, where about 90% of it takes place in Tampa, about a rum runner climbing up the crime ladder in Ybor City.
I hope he gets that gig, because there was an issue with the tax credits that he was going to get.
Yeah, the issue is whether or not they're going to film the scenes that take place in Ybor, or they're going to go to Savannah, because Savannah gives tremendous tax
breaks.
credit. Like any business, you're going to go where
that's we want Ben Affleck here, especially in the wake of his success with Argo. And Tampa has a lot to offer.
It does.
You know as well as I do. You had the little documentary on Charlie Wolf.
Yeah, but whether they film it in Tampa or not, it'll be a major motion picture with Oscar potential about Ybor City. So it's really going to get the name Ybor City out to the public. When you tack that on to Boardwalk Empire, you've suddenly got something building here. The history's getting out there.
Thank you. Well, we've got a caller. We'd like to go to the caller now on line 4. Let me do this, Paul. Stand by. Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Oh, my name is Jan Pittman Lazzara, and I'm calling from Tampa.
Hi, Jan. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
I think this may be, somebody just whispered in my ear, is this a first-time call for you?
Yes, sir.
There you go, because everybody that calls in for the first time gets a bell ring, and you've just got yours. So how are you tonight?
I'm fine, and I'm crazy about Paul Guzzo's writing, so I'm really interested in the show.
Thank you so much for looking in on us. How did you find out about us?
From Paul Guzzo's article in the Tribune.
Excellent. Well, you're one of the people that he helped us reach out to.
Yes.
We do a lot of our marketing, I guess you'd say, on Facebook, and we know that a lot of people maybe aren't associated and affiliated with that. We had a sneaky suspicion, Jan, that when this article came out, because we know one thing about Tampa natives, we still get that Tribune. It may be 7 pages worth of newspaper these days.
We read that thing like it's a Bible.
Back and front, back, and we never miss the obits. And I told Paulie, I said, listen.
Exactly. And I've reached the age, I'm 71, and I go to more funerals than parties now.
Well, and listen, and that is kind of what we talk about here on the show, because we're trying to get those stories captured before we lose them. And,
Well, I've lived here all of my life. I was born in the Centro Suriana Hospital.
Wonderful.
My parents were members of that original HMO that Tampa had that nobody else had.
That's right. That's right. We had it's a special time, special place, and the name Lazzara, that's family history, and that's
that's Pittman, though.
And Pittman is what the long-standing names, long-standing history. We'd love to meet you sometime, Jan, if we can.
Well, I asked the question, and I think you should tell your viewers that if they wanted to send in a check or a photo, the address that we should send it to?
Oh, wonderful.
That's a wonderful
That's
question.
a great question.
Thank you
And
so
I've got
much.
goosebumps because I think you mentioned something about sending in a check. So you're going to get a second ring for the mention of sending in a check. Why don't we do this? Jan, reach out to us. Send us an email. Everybody that's listening out there that would like to participate, send us an email. And then we will respond to that email personally to you with that address.
Right.
It's easier that way. The email address is right there on your screen. Thank you, Becky. Good Times. And why is it Good Times, Steve?
Because we have good times.
Because that's what we
we
do here
have
at the Tampa
nothing
Natives
but
Show.
good times
Good
here.
Times at tampanativeshow.com. Send us your email. Say, Mario, we'd like to contribute. Where can I send the check? And we'll get right back to you, we promise.
Okay, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you so
Before
much.
you go, can we get your bolita drawing number?
I beg your pardon?
Lucky number between 1 to 75. You know, we do an homage here every week on the
33.
33?
It's legal.
33 or 23?
33.
33 it is, double
33.
three.
It's yours.
Thank you once again,
Thank
Jan, for
you,
looking in on
Jan.
us. And spread the word all over to your friends and let them know that we're here every week on
I
Thursday.
will, don't worry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, hon.
Nice
Appreciate
to
it.
talk
Happy
to
New
you.
Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
What a great call.
That was
See,
fantastic.
that's your handiwork,
Thank you
partner.
very much.
That's your handiwork. You can take a lot of credit for that.
I'd be remiss if I don't mention if you're a fan of history. I'm not the only person who writes history. We also have former Mayor Pam Iorio writes a history column for us.
I saw that. Yep.
Rodney Kite Powell from the
Very
History
good.
Center does.
Very good.
Of course, Otto does quite a bit. So
Yeah.
if you're a history fan, there's no question we are the daily newspaper to read. It's the Tampa Tribune. You never know what day of the week you're going to pick it up and read a new tidbit about history. And I believe between Mayor Iorio, Rodney Kite Powell, I mean, they're two of the best historians in the area. So we've got the corner. We've got the market corner.
And if you've got a contact with both of those, I'm going to lean on you just a little bit as the booking agent, agent for the Tampa Natives Show to help us. Paulie, help us reach out to them because we'd love to have them on the show as well. I mean,
And
that's
Steve Otto, too.
and, well, no,
Yeah.
Steve,
On
of
the
course,
show.
Steve of Tampa,
Yeah.
and we want to continue with this theme, and you can hear the passion in Jan's voice when she was calling,
That
and
was great.
and
That
we
was a
get
great
that from
call.
time to time when people call in and they've just discovered us, and it's like a whole new thing opening up. Like, wow, we've been wanting to talk about this for how long now?
Everybody loves talking about old Tampa.
They
They
do.
really
They
do.
Well, there's
It's
an
just-
emotional connection
yeah.
there, you know. And
Very strong emotional connection.
by the way, speaking of Tampa Tribune and,
Look
and
at
also
this.
history,
We need to show.
Yeah, I found
these
this in my
camera.
family's archives just recently, last week actually. It's been there for 20 years, sitting hermetically sealed in a container. All 6, 7 editions, really. Each one having in fact, Becky, if you can't bring up that Tampa Tribune centennial photo for a second.
There it is.
I want to show this to Paul. Paul, look at every interval, basically from 1994 backwards to 1895. In fact, here's Charlie Wall on the cover of
you
this
go.
one.
That Madison Rexall.
Each one shows the articles of that time period. So I don't know if you have this or not, or if you've seen this at the Tampa Tribune, but
I remember
but
when
I can
those
give this
came
to you
out,
to
Steve.
borrow.
Yeah, because
You remember that too?
I
when it
do
came out?
remember when those came out.
Graduation year.
No, I do remember when those came out. And what you need to do, make sure maybe somehow we can get copies of those and then give them to Paul, gift them to him so he can use them as part of his research and almost 100 years worth.
Charlie Wall there is a great example of sometimes finding history while looking for something else. I was at the library going through city directories and trying to find an address. I don't even remember what the article was for, but trying to find an address for something else. And while there, I saw Charlie Wall's name. I said, oh, look at this. It's his address in the city directory. So I thought, I'm curious how far back this house goes. So I keep looking. And just by accident, realized that in 2013, his house turned 100 years old.
Wow.
So we start looking through old archives at the Tribune, and we find out that history through the Hillsborough County Tax Collector's Office had dated his house wrong, and they'd always dated it younger than it was, and it's actually 100 years old, so just stumbling upon something like that.
So that research.
So his research skills are increasing
It's
as well.
luck.
Yeah.
It's luck.
Yeah.
Well, and sometimes it is. And sometimes it is. You're out there prospecting and you think, you're panning on the river's edge over here thinking that's nothing over here, nothing over here.
Yeah.
All of a sudden there's something shiny in the bottom of that.
But if you're out there doing something, you're going to run into something eventually.
Yeah, you're going to bump into something. I think that there's still so much more out there to run into.
You just got to want to sit in the library and look through books.
But that's to me that's incredibly interesting. It's that's sleuth work, man. We've got a guy on our team too.
You know Dan Perez?
Dan Perez.
I go to him.
Yeah, no,
I use him for research.
He
all the
is
time
a
I
good.
email him.
Danny, are you out there listening, brother? And I know you are.
Send us an email if you are.
Okay, this is Paul Guzzo, and he says he goes to you, bro.
Oh,
so okay, when are you going to come do the show? I'm calling you out, Dan Perez. When are you going to come do the show? So bring yourself in here so we can talk to you as well, because that's what we do here at the Tampa
Anytime I get
Natives.
stumped, I email Dan.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not even exaggerating. Anytime I get stumped on something, I email him and he gets an answer to me, or at least a lead to me within the hour.
And I've been knowing Dan since
incredible.
our high school days, and he's the unofficial archivist. He's the unofficial historian. He
great
won't take any
genealogist.
title. No. Genealogy. He's the one that I told you just before we went on the air.
Yeah.
He sent me, because he found it. He said, Mario, look what I found. And I have the copy of it. We've shown it here on the show. Victoriano Manteca coming over on the Olivet with my great-grandfather. And you give him a name. You give him a date.
We'll track it down.
He'll find it.
He's like a dog with a bone.
Yeah, he'll find it for you.
He helped me out with an article. It'll be coming up probably in a few months. We're waiting for the opportunity to be correct. But on a sheriff that was murdered in the 1940s, and the sheriff's office has no info on him. So they said, hey, Paul, if you would help us do a little research, find something out about him. So with Dan's help, we were able to find out that he had a split in his family in like the 1930s at one point, and he had his first cousin who had been living in Tampa.
Wow.
Who never knew that they had other first cousins, because there was a split in the family, and the slain officer's father remarried, and the two sides never knew each other.
Wow.
So just, again, it's just luck. The sheriff's office had researched his name, and then we're able to find out that there's first cousins living in this city that never knew each other because there was a split in the family.
Oh.
He gets murdered, so there's never any reconciliation.
And they're blocks away.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that article will be probably coming out in May when the sheriff's office honors all their slain officers. We'll probably be releasing that one.
That's
Right.
incredible.
Does your section have a title like Leland's did?
No,
No, just look for Paul Guzzo.
It's just when there's something coming up of historic significance,
Sure.
Then I'll do an article about it. For instance, the one this weekend with Victoriana, because this is the 55th anniversary of the Cuban Revolution.
Yes.
Driving Fulgencio Batista off the
Yes.
island. And so a lot of Tampa Cubans went to the island to celebrate, even though they want to deny it. And one of them was Victoriano. And the point of my article is saying nobody had better access to the celebration than Victoriano. He was with Castro. He had lunch with Santo Traficante, who had not yet been imprisoned. He had dinner with a gentleman named General Bayo, who is considered the architect of Latin American guerrilla warfare.
There you go.
So
He had access.
yeah.
He had access.
And so that was the purpose of that article, 55th anniversary of the Cuban Revolution. Tampa people were going over there in droves to celebrate, and Victoriano was the shining star of Tampa.
That'll be interesting.
Great.
What a history.
Yes.
What an
Yeah.
amazing history.
We're learning
We're going
tonight.
to go to our caller on line 4 here in just a second. Also, we want to mention the Tampa Picture Show. We talked about it a little bit earlier at the top of the show. You did an article that just came out.
Yeah.
Maybe you can expound on that. Let's go to our caller on 4, and we'll be right back to talk about Tampa Picture Show. Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Mario, Robert Gonzalez from.
Wow.
Hey.
Hi, Robert Gonzalez. How are you? Do you want to send us a check, too? Because we'll take your money.
Nice to hear from you.
Hi, Robert. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys know what type of history geek I am.
Yes?
Oh, yeah. We
And
know.
basically, I'm calling just for a shot of getting that book.
It's right here on the table. Give us your Bolita number, and then you can give us a comment as well.
Okay, the number I'm picking is 14.
14, lucky 14. An email coming
You
in,
have
Steve.
it.
Emails are coming in as well.
Yep.
Very good. Now, did you have a question for Paul or a comment? Did you want to?
I think the article during you guys was great. Matter of fact, I still had the newspaper that had the article in my bedroom. I haven't thrown it away yet.
Don't you dare throw that away
No.
yet. Don't you dare.
We need a
Listen,
copy of it.
you bring that to. We'll meet you over at the West Tampa Sandwich Shop. We'll let you buy us a café con leche. We'll sign that paper for it. Okay? We'll sign it for you.
Okay. I have, as I told you guys already, I have a huge interest in the history of West Tampa.
Sure.
I mean, not West Tampa, of Tampa.
Tampa in general, sure.
And because my ancestral roots go back basically to the founding of Ybor City. And I'm such a history geek of any kind of history, but Tampa history especially.
It is.
It is,
It
yeah.
is.
Because I think the history of Tampa is fascinating.
It has everything. It really does.
Incredibly so. And I think that if Hollywood really and truthfully knew a little bit more
Yeah.
about it,
Well, maybe they'll find out.
they
now.
could do something
Yeah.
here like they did for HBO with Boardwalk Empire. In fact, Andy Hughes, a dear friend of ours too, who's going to be on the show in this season, has hinted at the possibility of something like he would like to get to. Perhaps we ought to introduce him to Paul Guzzo. Paul knows him, of course he does.
I misspelled his name in my article.
They run in the same circles, all these guys do. And we should all get in there, Robert, and we should probably figure out a way to come up with a screenplay, maybe a series. Do you remember the HBO series Tombstone?
Yeah.
Rough, wild, the West. You had the saloons and the bathhouses and the bordellos, the houses of ill repute. Well,
we got it all.
I hate to say this, spoiler alert. We had all that here too in Ybor City.
That would be amazing.
Only we had it with a Latino flavor. You know what I mean? Everybody was speaking either Cuban or Italian, Sicilian Italian. So
that would be great.
There's something going to happen. I think that the elements are starting to line up and come together. As Paul mentioned earlier, they're starting to notice now. They're doing the Dolphin Tale 2 now in Clearwater. They're filming there, so they're starting to notice. We just got to get Tallahassee to extend the courtesy of the same type of tax breaks, business side stuff now that some of the other states do, like Louisiana and like the Carolinas and Georgia, Savannah. So that way, we can draw that business down here as well.
Yeah. You know what else? It's
Well,
time.
there was an article in the Tribune a few weeks back about that the state of Florida is trying to get the film industry.
We have a new film commissioner, and I believe she's taken to her post and she's working real hard.
We need the governor's help, though,
we just need everybody to kind of put that energy out there and work towards bringing it here. It'll happen. It's going to happen. I have a really, really good feeling. We're primed for the picking.
The history of Tampa, in my opinion, is very unique.
It is.
Yes.
Many of the things that happen in the history of Tampa happen in other cities all over the country, but the history of Tampa is
super special.
It's very special.
Robert, thank you so much. We're going to have to go because it's that time of the show when the 15-minute girl's got something to say.
We have 15 minutes left to go.
Oh my gosh.
Said it.
She got us again. Oh yeah, thanks for calling. Do not throw that paper away. If I find out that you threw it away, you're going to be in trouble.
You won't throw it away.
Thank you, Robert. I hope you win the book.
Yeah.
all right. So bye.
Bye now. That's great. No, Andy mentioned that when he was on the show, and we talked about it, that it's all there, man.
Yeah.
You got to get the right people just to get together and
many
block
movies.
it out.
Many movies that could be
You and Pete did that the documentary on Charlie Wall. You know what that's all about.
I dare a city in the country to rival what was going on in Tampa in the 1950s.
Yeah.
You had the organized crime
in the 50s.
Organized crime in the 50s.
Yeah.
Was at its most powerful in the U.S. here in Tampa because of our proximity to Cuba, where the casinos were allowed to operate under gangster rule with impunity. You had a changing of the guard here in the 50s with the Traficantes taking out Charlie Wall. During all this happening, you had the Cuban Revolution, revolutionaries here in Tampa raising money for Fidel Castro. So you had there was nowhere in Tampa like
nowhere in the States like in Tampa.
It was just an amazing place.
Yep.
Scary place to sound. I'm glad I didn't live here.
You had the key five trials. No, absolutely. And for those of us that were here, just going about our daily business.
Just normal.
It's normal stuff. Normal stuff. 15 minutes to go. Hey, we still got a line open, so if you'd like to win the book, if you'd like to share a comment with us, call in real quick because we're going to have to get to our Bolita drawing. Steve, what do you got there?
We do have another one. We have Ricky T. Parnell.
Okay.
Ricky T. Parnell.
21, number 21.
I guess we're going to take the emails after all, man. These people won't call.
Yeah, we
Dale
want
Kimball,
you to call in.
We want you to call in, but Dale Kimball, sometimes, and we get it, we're not blind.
I've already got Dale's.
I know. We're not blind to the fact that you don't want to call in because you don't want to disrupt the flow of the conversation, and we get that. But we do appreciate the calls as well. We just want to let you know. If you're out there sitting there thinking, gosh, I don't want to call, call.
Please call.
We'll take your call.
And Paul, people can find your articles by going to TampaTribune.com, is that right? And maybe doing a search
Go to tbo.com and go to the upper right-hand corner, and you can use my name to search, and you'll find I do a lot of stuff about history. I've been doing a lot of stuff about the movie industry here.
Good.
And as you mentioned about pro wrestling, I've been doing a lot about pro wrestling because we have a deep history of pro wrestling here.
Tremendous, man.
And some people laugh when you say pro wrestling in Tampa, but pro wrestling, the roots are as deep here in Tampa with pro wrestling as Cuban coffee and cigars.
Sure.
Oh, no.
It was as much.
That's a whole other aspect.
Yes.
It was as important in Tampa as anything else.
Cowboy Luttrell. And you think Vince McMahon and the WWF or now the WWE, we had the NWA here, National Wrestling Alliance, in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. I mean, the American dream right here.
Big time.
The Graham family right here.
One of the best things about doing a Tribune has been me doing these history articles on wrestling and getting to talk to Dusty Rhodes.
There you go.
I got to talk to Ric Flair.
We want to bring
Rocky
Dusty in. Dusty, if you're out
That
there.
would be
I got to talk to
amazing.
Rocky Johnson,
Sure.
who's Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Sure.
I've gotten a chance to talk to some of the
That's
heroes I
amazing.
grew up watching. Just the other day, I was talking on the phone with Lanny Poffo, who is Randy Savage's brother,
Absolutely.
leaving Lanny Poffo, who's the big star himself, doing an article on Randy Savage coming up, who is one of Tampa's most beloved citizens, passed away in recent years.
And I did read your
What
article.
about
The great
Hulk?
Macho Man.
Yeah.
Have you been able to get in touch with Hulk?
No, he's a little
hard
trickier
to
to
get
get
a
hold
Yeah,
of.
he is. He's
Yeah.
a little elusive. We
I
thought
would
we
love
might
to
be able
have
to
him
bring
come on
him
the
in.
show.
And I went to elementary school with the great Malenko's son, from
Yeah.
kindergarten
Oh,
all the way
yeah?
through Tampa Catholic, actually until 10th grade.
Yeah.
Dean Malenko, the man of a million
Dean
homes.
Malenko.
Yep.
AKA Shelley Simon. Yeah.
So you see, ladies and
stuff.
gentlemen, we've got a lot. We're just scratching the surface.
Yes,
I got a feeling
yeah.
Paul's going to have to come back and do a second part of the show. Let's real quick talk about the Tampa Picture Show before we run out of time completely. You mentioned the article. Tell us a little bit about the situation that the nice gentleman who owns that facility finds himself in.
Hollywood studios have officially said that 35mm prints that have historically shown in theaters are a relic of the past,
Going
only
away.
digital. It's an expensive transition. It's
It is.
$65,000 what
Yeah.
it cost. Major cinemas were able to get some sort of tax breaks to do this, but the mom and pop shops were not. So a lot of them have been closing up. Some in Tampa, like the old drive-ins, were lucky enough, not lucky.
The one in Ruskin?
They
recently?
realized this was going on years ago, so began saving and investing and
Yeah.
putting into it. Tampa Picture Show was not as lucky. Anybody who's ever run a small business knows it's very hard to put aside $65,000.
Sure.
So if they don't get the money to convert within the next 90 days, they're probably going to have to shut down.
Oh, no.
And there's an event this Sunday. And I think we have a graphic. If we can bring that graphic up, Becky, this would be a great time to talk about that. Look at our phone lines lighting up now with 7 minutes to go. We have a graphic on, Stevie, you have it there? It's Tampa Picture Show. I think it's listed as Tampa Picture Show. There it is.
Yeah.
And there's a double feature.
Joe Weintraub.
Double feature this Saturday. This Sunday. There it is. This Sunday, 1 o'clock. And for $10, proceeds go to help raise funds for the digital conversion. And we've got to do this, guys. We've got to do this because if we don't within 90 days, they may have to shutter the doors.
Here's the important to Tampa Picture Show is I won't say the last because then another theater will call me up and say, we do it too.
Yeah.
So I'll say one of the last theaters I know of that actively supports independent film.
Independent
other
film.
theaters.
That's good to know.
Look, if you call other major theaters and say I want to rent out your theater for the night to show my film, they'll do it, but it's costly.
Yeah.
Tampa Picture Show works with the independent filmmakers, gives them a venue to show their film. It's a venue for alternative films that are outside the mainstream of the show, and so if it shuts down, as Andy Lilino, a filmmaker, said in my article, all you're going to get around Tampa is the movie of the week. And you're going to lose those little films that bring
and that's important.
a different kind of story.
Extremely
I love
important.
independent films.
Right.
So if
They're
the Tampa
some of the
Picture Show
best.
closes, we're going to
Yeah.
lose that venue. It's very important to independent, not just filmmakers, but all visual artists. Comedians use it, theater groups use it, and I guess the owner is maybe a little too kind because he probably does not charge what he should, which is added to the fact he can't get the $65,000. So he's very supportive of the arts community.
Plus, it's a legacy
Great.
business, too.
It's a legacy business. So
Yeah.
we've got to help. So please, if you're available on Sunday, do bring a carload of
Come out
folks
and
down
help.
there.
Yeah.
Double feature for $10. You can't go wrong.
Just
And
to
one-
meet Joel Weintraub. He's king of the B
Yep,
movies.
Joe,
Right.
and Joel will be there. He was supposed to call in tonight. Joel, if you're out there watching, you better hurry. You got about 5 minutes to go.
callers left.
2 callers real
Quick.
quick, then we've got to get to our Bolita drawing. Let me go to caller on line 5. Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Neil Kimball from Lutz, Florida.
Hi, Dale. We got about 5 minutes to go, and I'm so sorry you waited so long to call, but we got your number as 56. That never
do
changes.
have that.
Did you have a comment for us?
Well, real quick, Paul does great writing for the Tribune. He brought a story to life of a young man that I've met a couple times, Arizona Jenkins, a few weeks ago, and the story was spot on. He brought the whole history of this young man who's got cerebral palsy, and it just really shared it with the community. One of my hobbies is writing letters to the editor, and it's just fun to write, kind of throw a little history in that I know because my great-grandfather came here back in 1898. But keep doing the great writing.
Thank you.
The one thing I will say is they said that in the Tribune that there was a trailer in front of the museum over in St. Pete, and they're taking stories about people's past and history.
Oh, StoryCorps.
Oh, yeah.
Dale, we've got about 3 minutes to go. We're going to have to let you...
You are the StoryCorps of Tampa Bay.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you.
very much.
We take our job very seriously, and we appreciate that. Listen, we're gonna stay tuned because we got that Bolita drawing coming up in just a minute. Thanks for your call. We appreciate your kind words.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Got
Bye-bye.
his number.
Real quick, we got to go to line. Oh,
We lost him.
oh no! Our caller on line 4 was our first-time caller.
Menendez.
Oh, that was Mr. Menendez.
Yeah.
If you're there, Mr. Menendez, call back real quick. We'll pick up the phone. It
wanna
was
do
Gilbert
the
Menendez. Oh my,
Bolita
I'm so
drawing
sorry. Yeah, don't let us run over, Beck. We'll go ahead and get the balls ready just in case Mr. Menendez calls back. 2 minutes to
2
go.
minutes. Where did it go?
Oh, Gilbert. Well, Paul.
What a great show.
I know,
What a
thank
great
you.
show. If we can get your 2 lovely children to come around here, we've got 2 minutes to go.
So you can be
Come
in the
here,
picture.
come here and stand next to Daddy on that side and stand next to Daddy on this side, and there you go. Introduce your kids, Paul.
This is Julia and this is Vinny. And Julia, you look so tiny on television.
Julie is adorable. This is Vinny, and you know what? Vinny's going to draw our number tonight. Is that Mr. Gilbert? Let me see if it is. Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
From Tampa, Florida. I've called in before in March on the Wayshore Mall show.
And your name?
Gilbert Manendez.
Oh,
Gilbert, give us your Bolita number because we're going to get ready to do the drawing right now.
26.
26. Thanks for calling, Gilbert. Next week, call a little sooner.
Okay, we'll do.
Thanks, my buddy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, that's for Gilbert because he
Second-
called
second
back.
time caller.
Because he's a
Wow,
second
yeah,
time
I
caller, but he
remember.
called back. All right, don't let me go over,
He
Beck.
won one.
Vinny, reach in there, my man.
Just one.
Pull out one. There it is. Look at Vin. You want to tell me that number? Can you read that?
99.
99 or
Closest to without going over.
it's 66 actually.
You could have pulled a harder one to read.
Good call. 66. What do we got, darling?
Let's see.
Closest to without going over.
66,
Did everybody go over?
That would be Dale Kimball.
Is it Dale Kimball?
56.
Wow, Dale
that?
Kimball. So you got to write dedication to Dale Kimball on
Will
there.
do.
Dale,
Okay.
you won again,
Congratulations.
my good man. We got 30 seconds to go. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Flew by.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me just say
What a
what a
fun
privilege
show.
it is to have Paul in studio with us and his 2 wonderful kids that were so well behaved tonight. We will be
great.
here next Thursday. Please look in on us. Tell all your friends about us. We will continue to do this show until we can't do it anymore. Okay, guys, raise your glasses
do it.
together. We don't want to run out of time before we get a chance to say thank you, Paul.
Thank you
Thank
very
you, my
much.
brother.
much.
Thanks
Did
for
you have
being
fun?
here.
Anytime. I'll come
You have
on.
fun?
I'll come anytime. Of course.
Good
Good.
time.
Good.
On behalf of Tampa Steve and the 15-minute girl, there's Julie, right?
Julia.
Julia, adorable. Vinny, good to see you, my man. Paul,
Thank you.
I'm Mario
Salud.
Nunez. Salud
And
happy days.
days.
We love you, Tampa.
Yes, we do.
see you next week.
What a great show,
Bye-bye.
Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Back when we were younger
Thank you.
and everything seemed new. We used to have a lot of fun, yes we did. No matter what we do. Sleepy days, long summer nights, going anywhere we please. With love that I could call my own, love that I've always known, the city that I call my home, a home from which I never roam. This love affair was meant to be. I love her and she loves me. I remember Tampa, oh, she remembers me. She remembers me. I remember, yeah, yes I do. Oh, I remember, yeah, me and you. I'm a Tampa native, Tampa native, can't you see? I will share my story with you to preserve its history.
All right now, don't forget, Thursdays, 7 p.m. on TBCN, home of the Tampa Natives Show.